Hello, Lizzie here, and today I'm going to show you how to make Mayme. And Mayme is a beautiful soft wallet with compartments. Now I've seen very similar things like this around and about on the internet, and when I went to make it, it looked so scruffy and there's nothing I could do to make it look neat because there's an awful lot of binding going down on sides and across, and I thought, you know what, I need to reinvent the wheel. So with this we ended up with Mayme, and she is multi-pocketed. So she's got lots of pockets in there, lots of wallet space to put your bits and bobs in, whatever you choose. It could be for jewellery, couldn't it? That would be nice. And it has a nice large flap that comes over the top. Now I haven't attached my flap. I kind of quite like it loose like this, but you could of course put your own poppers on there or Velcro, something like that. So how do we make it? Well, first of all, the pattern is now available on my website, which is lizzycurtis.com, and it's a download. And once you've got all the pattern there, you get pictures, you get full written instructions, and you get this video tutorial, so it's great value for money. So Mayme, once you cut all your pieces out, you'll end up with sort of rectangles. So you'll have the lining fabric, you'll have the outer fabric, which I've stabilized with a medium weight interfacing, and I think again that's optional. I wouldn't use wadding because it'd be too thick, but as some sort of stabilizer would be nice. So you've got your rectangles. Now you will already, I've already made some up, and you're going to make 3 pockets which are all identical like this. Okay, so that's what the pocket looks like, and then we join all the pockets together. You've got one join of the binding, which is I've put it at the central of the back. You may want to put it at the side. I thought maybe it'd be too bulky at the sides. I quite like it at the back, and then we join them together and make the concertina. So we're going to make one of those. Then we have the sort of back piece, the flap that comes over, and that's also a pocket as well. And if I take one of those clips out, you'll see that it's just one long piece folded up at 6 inches, and all those instructions are, like I say, on the download. So I'm going to take you through the basics of making a pocket and how to put them all together. So we'll bring in the machine. So the first thing you're going to do is take your rectangles, whether it's the back piece or the 3 pockets, right sides together, and you're going to stitch down the 2 long sides. So you're going down here and down here, and then we're just going to turn through. So 1/4 inch seam allowance is always preferable with this, but of course it's entirely up to you. You might want to make it a little bit narrower or a little bit bigger. It's whatever's comfortable. So a little back stitch because we're turning through, and you could of course clip all this together. And then just down the other side. Now you'll be tempted to do what I've just done, which we finished here, so you're going to come back up there, but don't do that. Flip it over and turn your work, because if it's twisted in any way, you're going to make it even more twisted when you come back up. So it's quite good to flip it over. There we are. So that's one little piece done. So you can just tidy up your fabrics because it may well have moved. And like I say, if you use your quilting clips, then that really does help to keep everything stabilised. So I'll just trim that. I think my lining was about 1/8 of an inch longer than my outer fabric. And so we're just going to turn that through now. So it's really easy to make. So I'm going to get my iron in because I like to have a nice crisp edge to these little pockets. It makes a huge difference. Now, if you've got a woolen iron mat, oh my goodness me, they're such an asset. So I tend to sort of fold it so the seams are in the middle and push the seams out, and then just give them an iron. Not quite hot enough yet, but I think we'll be fine. There we go. So once you've pressed those nice and flat, just take those seams to the side and then press down again. And it's really important that you have a lovely nice crease there. And if you find you're seeing your lining just roll that top fabric over so you don't see the lining, because if you see the lining now, you'll see the lining when you come to fold your pockets. So now we've pressed it, you're going to fold it in half. So you're bringing up your raw edges to the top. I like to give this another press just to keep everything in place. And that's pretty much all the pressing done. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put some binding on. So you don't need bias binding, just straight binding like you would use in quilt making. All the instructions on the sizes and the lengths that you need are on the instructions, so don't worry about that. Now what you might want to do is start off with a nice neat end to your work, but we're going to cover that when we come round the other side. So find around about the centre of one of your short edges and just place your binding down. You're going to actually stitch top and bottom at the same time. So you want your raw edge of your pocket to go right in the centre of your binding, and you're just putting half on one side and half on the other. I like to put my needle down just to catch that, so I can then hold everything in place. So you're literally sandwiching your pocket top inside the binding. So once you've got your top raw edges encased right inside that binding, you're just going to stitch along. Now I would stitch a good eighth of an inch in, just so you make sure you catch the back and the front at the same time. If you've got a binding tool on your machine, change it to that, it's much easier. And so now we've come to the point where I'm coming to the end of my pocket piece, and I'm now going to flip this end here up so it folds underneath. And if we look at this, one of these pockets that I've done here, I want you to have a look. I've already stitched the sides of it, but I want you to see, I'll put my finger through there so you can see that that is a continuous piece of binding. Okay, so I'm bringing up that other raw edge, so this edge here, I'm folding it and I'm bringing it round so it meets the edge of the pocket top that I've just started to stitch. Now all the pictures and instructions, like I say, are in the download, and there are really good pictures of how this looks. But I want you just to follow what I've done, grab that corner, bring it up, and it goes parallel to the one you just stitched. So just take your time. All right, I'm coming to the end of the other part of the pocket. So just coming to that end now. And so what I'm going to do is bring this other end up. So we kind of, you can see when we're making the pocket, there's where we brought it up before. Let me just show you. So there's where we brought it up before and encased it in that binding. So now we're doing the same to the other side. So we're just literally putting those edges together and stitching our binding over the top. So now we're coming back to nearly where we've started. So I'm just going to stitch an inch or so. A little bit more maybe. Okay, so now I'm coming back to where I started. So I'm going to cut my binding a good half an inch beyond where I started. A good half an inch, okay? So don't stint on this. Cut more if you feel a bit nervous. So a good half an inch, so that's I can use that for another project. So what we're going to do is when we come to that part, I'm going to move the machine so you can see. This is the end that I've got now, and I'm going to fold that under. So all of that gets folded under. And what you could do is put a bit of quilter's tape there just to hold that in place. And we're literally going to pop that under our work and fold that over. And that is our binding done. Nothing fancy, no 45-degree angles here. So let's get that done. So I'll just readjust. There we go. So make sure it's all in place. Now you might want to use a stiletto to actually hold all these layers in place and tuck those raw edges in because they want a fight to come out. So just take a moment and then do a lovely back stitch just to hold that. There we go. So that is actually our binding all done. and you can see where the join is, but I'm happy about that. It's a nice neat folded end, so I'm happy with that. And that's how the sides look when we brought those sides up, and I've literally just carried on with my binding. It's a really simple technique. What we're going to do now is measure down from the top where the binding is down the side 1 inch. So we'll get the erasable pen, and I'll use my mat. I'm going to mark 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other side. I can just about see that. It's a red pen and red design. Who thought of that? So from 1 inch down, you're now going to stitch these sides together. So where it's open now, we're going to close it by stitching 1 inch and all the way down, both sides. So it's just fine. So a quick mention about my Gold Club. If you haven't joined already, there's no time like the present. Just pop to my website, find the link that says Gold Members Sign Up here, and then you have access to my Facebook weekly events, which is absolutely amazing. My girls love it. And of course you get the free patterns as well. So if you want more information, there is actually a video on YouTube that you can have a little look at. Just finding your mark. So this is where, if you didn't press your lining properly, if you like, so hiding it, this is where you'll see it. But you might have chosen a really fancy lining, so you know what, it really doesn't matter, does it? So again, I'm just going to start from 1 inch down. All the way down, nice back stitch, and there's our pocket made. I've got a few little threads here, but I'll just trim off. So there's our pocket made, but now we need to join all these pockets together. So I've got 3 pockets, and I've got the back pocket as well. So obviously I need to join these together. I wanted to keep that loose so you can see how that looks with that back piece. It's just a long piece, exactly as the pockets, but then folded up that 6 inches so it matches the pockets. So I'm just going to stitch this now. So I'm starting from the folded end. You can start from the top or the folded end. Just make sure that's all lined up. And this would really benefit from pressing. And now I'm going right beyond the binding with my top stitching, because this is the last pocket. It means I can. With the other ones, we'd already put the binding all the way around, so I didn't need to really. And again, starting from the top where the binding is, a good back stitch, because you're going to be putting things in this. Well, hopefully you will. You know what, this would make a terrific craft fair item. So there we are. So there's our back pocket made. So all we need to do now is join them. So you're going to join one at a time. So where I've put the binding at the back, I'm just literally finding the middle. Now these are a certain width, so you need to find the middle of that. The instructions will tell you what it is, and then you're just going to stitch 1 inch or so either side. Now you could measure this, or you could, I could put a pin either side just to make sure I'm equal. Or shall we do that? Might as well. So you could eyeball this, or you could actually measure it. I'm not going to use a red pen. I wonder if I've got another one handy. I don't think I have. So we'll just use a pencil. So I'm just going to eyeball this. And then I'm just going to top stitch those two together. Now you'll have to maneuver this fabric about a bit, but try to keep all your layers together. It's not difficult, it's just a little bit of manoeuvring, and then just top stitching. And I'm really loving this design for a quick project. So again, and of course I'm using cream threads, I always do, but you might want to use a thread that matches your fabric. So there's the first one stitched together, and it's stitched, I don't know, maybe 2.5 inches across there, and then we're going to stitch the next one to the pocket we've just stitched. So again, get them lined up, Do take a bit of time with that because you want them all to be right on the edges. So this time I'm just going to eyeball it. Always dangerous. Again, just top stitching. Now I'm top stitching at the very top edge of those pieces of binding, but you might want to do the top stitching where you stitched the binding so you don't see a second row of stitches. But the thing with something like this, it gives you lots of options on what you can do with it. So there's our second pocket done. So we've got the back pocket attached, we've got the second pocket, third pocket, fourth pocket going on now. So I'm putting the binding part to the back and matching up my pockets there. So if I can do it to the front, I'm happy that that's in the middle. Just keep checking because you want this to be accurate. I mean, okay, yes, you can unpick it, but why would you want to do that? Again, I'm going to eyeball it. You measure it. I'm going to give you the measurements in the pattern, but just for speed, let's get it done. Let's get it done. So just, as I say, you need to maneuver all of this under your machine. There we go. So that is all our pockets joined. And there is our Mayme. And so it's a lovely, lovely soft wallet. Like I say, you might want to put wadding on the back of this. You know, this back piece, you might want to have wadding, or you could use Decaville to make it even stiffer. But what you're going to do now is go away and fill that with jewellery. Maybe it's children's toys. Maybe it's paraphernalia for your stitching. But certainly it's going to be one of those projects that you're going to do lots of. So I hope you enjoyed looking at this video, and now I want you to go and make loads.